Hello everyone and welcome to another Disneyland layout where I'm going to go through the whole process of putting these photos onto my pages. And the main thing I'm going to talk about today, apart from these photos, is paper choice. When it comes to choosing paper for photos that are as varied as this, it can be a little bit tricky. So I'll get to that in just a moment after I've talked about these photos a little bit. And this is part of a collab that I'm doing with my great friend Julie Carriere, who I went to Disneyland with earlier this year in April. It is so fun traveling with a scrapbooking friend. Julie is just a ball of laughs and she's pretty much up for anything except maybe for getting wet. I found out she did not want to do this ride that I did way back in 1990 when I was there, and it was Splash Mountain. And you can see by the look on her face, she is screaming in anticipation of getting soaked. She didn't get that wet, so it was quite good. And I'm at the back here with my arms up and her hair is just streaming across my face here. But this photo just makes me laugh so much. And when we were talking about what photos we were going to scrapbook, and we have a spreadsheet all worked out, and when it came to the last collab that we did a couple of weeks ago, I said to her, I really wanted to scrapbook some of the rides that we went on that aren't featured in any double page spreads like Star Wars or anything like that. They're sort of the collection of photos that you take as you're going around on various rides. Winnie the Pooh was absolutely so much fun. I took way too many photos on here, so I've narrowed that down to my 3 favorite ones and made a collage. So I wanted to put those memories onto a page, as well as the parades and some of the cheesy photos that were taken of us. So you can see here, this is one where you get to pose and the photographers take the photos and you download them. There are way cheesier photos in this one. I may do a little hidden pocket and just print those off so that I can just pull them out for a laugh later on when I'm in private, because I don't think we want to share some of those on YouTube. But you can see there are overlays that you can use as well with the Disneyland app. So I wanted to include a couple of those. So this layout is sort of about the rides, the parade. You can see I've got parade photos here as well. Hyperspace Mountain. I wanted to put this photo in here. I went on this one years and years ago as well. And now it has this full-on Star Wars overlay, which was really good. And you can tell these people here knew exactly how to pose. And when the camera was going to go off, I'm just hanging on and concentrating because I don't do roller coasters like I used to be able to do. This one I'm fine with putting my hands up in the air, but this one here I just hung on the whole way, and Julie is just sitting there looking calm and relaxed and normal. But me, I'm a little bit tense. And I really wanted to record some of these moments inside the rides. You can see we've got Pirates of the Caribbean, inside the old Splash Mountain ride, which is now Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and just photos of us around the park as well as the parade that we saw. We didn't get to see a really big parade. They didn't have one. It was just a few of the characters walking up Main Street, but it was fun to get the photos of these. Now, I'm glad I convinced Julie that she needed to include these photos because I think they are a lot of fun. Originally, this wasn't in our little schedule, but the fun thing is when you are doing this, it's like scrapbooking in the same room as her almost. We can chat about what's next up and maybe convince the other person to do something they weren't originally thinking of scrapbooking. Now, I have to apologize. My video is going up a bit later than normal. Julie's went up earlier this week. I'll have a link to that in the description below. Normally, I go up the day after her, but I haven't been that well, and you can probably hear it in my voice a little bit. I ended up with bronchitis, and that sort of put a spanner in the works. Last week, I posted a video that I had recorded a couple of weeks before that, but the last couple of weeks, I haven't been able to sit and record videos and get those done on time. The other fun thing about scrapbooking with a friend, even though they're not in the same room with you, and these days it's fun to do things virtually and we can chat at any time or share our ideas with each other. Julie had the idea of doing some sort of list, and I made it into like a top 10 type layout, and she has used the layout that I was thinking of doing. So we are working off the same sort of design this week. So doing my layout for the photos was quite simple. I've got little flip flaps here that I've got hidden pieces, my top 10 I'm not going to actually number my photos like Julie did. I have watched her video because I'm recording this after hers went up. I'm not going to number my actual photos. I'm just going to do my list of top 10 things in Disneyland. And this rides, parades and cheesy photos sort of layout is the perfect place to do that. And I watched her video and I really love the paper that she used, but I don't have any of that pattern paper. So I went through so many packets. I don't know if you guys do this when you're looking at a layout. It's got a whole lot of color on there. What papers are you going to choose? So I am going to bring in all the packs that I went through. So the first thing I looked at was Totally Awesome. So I'm just going to put this big stack aside and then run through all my auditioning process. I'm just going to move this one off to the side so that I can just put my paper underneath here. So Totally Awesome would work quite well. It's got traditional type Disney colors with the red, white, the blue, and a touch of yellow. So this would work quite well. But when I put it behind this photo here, which is the one that's going to be sitting on top, the stripes are a little bit distracting with these busy photos. So I discarded this one and thought then I would come in for Halloween spells. I'll just move Goofy off to the side as well. And I thought this would work quite well because it's got the greens in it. It is a Halloween paper, but these bubbles and sort of starburst elements and stars are a lot of fun to play with. And I thought that would work with these photos. But the green is not really in any of the other photos at all, except for this one over here. So it works all right with that, but it's a little bit bold. So I'm going to set this one aside. And I went on the hunt for some red pattern papers. And I've got trusty tools here, and I pulled out this red pattern, and I would have really liked it if the stripes were in white. Now I could put white cardstock over the top of that, but then effectively I may as well just use a piece of red cardstock and some white paper. But this works quite well, and I quite liked it, but I didn't love the grey. And when I put it over on this side, I really didn't like it with these photos here. So I'm looking for something that will work across both sections here, because these two photos, while they do have some similar colors, there are different feels about them. So I decided not to use trusty tools. Honestly, I had paper spread everywhere before I think I've come to my final decision. I even got out boho vibes because there is some red in this pattern. And I thought about doing borders with this 6x6 coming down like that. But once again, this is a lot of busy pattern paper with a lot of busy photos. And my photos are sort of getting lost. I really love how this works as a border, but not specifically for these photos. Going back to the reds, the only red and white pattern paper I have is a little bit festive. So this was from a Christmas release last year, and while it's got the red and white feel to it, which is really quite good, because if you look, we've got Minnie Mouse here. I was really trying to make the Disney sort of vibe work with this by creating a layout with red and white, but to me this pattern is just too busy to go with the rest of my photos. So I had to give up on the red and white design, or so I thought. But I did think maybe I could bring in some green, because the green works quite well with these photos. So this is from Sweet Days of Autumn. And while I don't mind this, it's just a little bit dull with the old olive sort of colour in here and maybe a touch of mossy meadow. So that one I decided, no, this wouldn't work. And this is the sort of process that a lot of us go through before we choose our final pattern papers. And a lot of it sometimes is done off camera. And as I mentioned before, I did go and watch Julie's video prior to mine, because when I got up on Monday morning, hers was there. So I thought, oh, I'll just go and have a little cheat look and see what she's done. So I got out some real red cardstock and thought I would try to mimic what she has used with her paper, which was an old Close to My Heart paper. So all I've done is punch some white circles using the 1 3/4 inch circle punch, and I've created my own pattern paper. Now this is looking really good, but before I actually did this, I had another lot of pattern paper here that I had pulled out, and it was pretty random. I'm going to bring that in. I'm going to put this on one side of the layout here, and you can tell me whether or not you like this bold white polka dot and red paper. Yes, it brings out Minnie, but it doesn't really bring out anything else in my photos. Or if you like what I think I'm going to use, I still haven't totally made up my mind. So Full of Life is a 6x6 paper pack, and the reason why I pulled this paper out, and I'm going to butt this one up onto this edge here, is because it works beautifully with these Winnie the Pooh photos here. So I really love how this looks together, and I don't think the seam is going to be that noticeable by the time I put everything down on my layout. So I've got red and white over this side, which is quite strong. It's typical Disney colors, especially with the black title. Or I've got a more muted watercolor sort of wash on this side, and I think I'm leaning towards this one. I actually had everything out because I wanted to get my video up and running in time, but if the truth be known, I was a little bit tired and actually fell asleep on the couch twice yesterday afternoon because I'm still recovering. So let me just take this out, because what I've done is then slept on it, of course, and thought, you know what, I'm going to see if I can use this one, because even though I've got some strong reds in here, I really love how this watercolor wash looks. Now I know with Disney layouts, we usually go for the standard red, white, black, bring in some yellow and some blue. So this is really totally off the norm, but I think it's going to work for me. My photos have all been printed with a white border, which I have trimmed down to make a small border, and then I've matted on the black. I've got them all ready to go in my flip flaps here. One thing you want to make sure before you adhere flip flaps down is that you push them right to the edge or to the bottom area so that they're all going to align up beautifully. But the more I look at this, the more I love this. I think it complements the photos. If I bring this one back in again, I think the paper with the circles that I've got, because there's no texture on these, is fighting with my photos, and these photos are getting a little bit lost and it's taking over a little bit. The pattern paper that Julie used had smaller circles and there was a little bit of texture to them, and I was going to go through and do a little bit of pen work on all of these circles, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think I'm just going to go way off the norm and bring in Full of Life. Now when I started playing with this was still available in Australia, and I have just gone on the website and unfortunately it's no longer available. But if you're like me, you would have bought a couple of packets of this because it's got such beautiful colors and treatments and patterns to it with all the watercolor work on it. I can always use this for something else. I could get out a smaller die and die cut a whole heap of circles, but the more I left this out on top of my desk, the more I fell in love with this paper. So I'm going to go ahead and start adhering some things down. I think what I'm going to do is do a little border on the edge of black just to bring in the black to this paper. I was going to put it onto the edge here, but with my title, it sort of blends in a bit too much. So I'm going to get busy with my adhering. The other thing I wanted to mention, when it came to doing my flip flaps, what I was originally going to do is have just my 3x4 photo here and then put my flip flap on top. Now, normally when I'm doing a layout, I wouldn't have someone looking off to the edge of the page here because it leads your eye off to the edge. But because this is a flip flap, when you open it, there's another photo here, so that stops that sort of feeling of everything going off the edge there. So I've got all my photos adhered with the flip flaps and an additional little bit of journaling here that's about the parade and Julie not wanting to go onto this, I keep going to call it Splash Mountain, but Tianu's Bayou Adventure Ride. My title here is cut with the Party Alphabet dies, and there are no numbers in this one, but with an I and I was able to do top 10. And when it came to my list and everything here, I decided I would just type this up on my computer and I just ran it through with a piece of cardstock. And I've done this title as well, which I'm now looking at, and it's very, very crooked. So let me just fix that up right now. And I've got some silver stars that I have punched using a new set. It's called A Little Cheer. There's actually 3 in this set. And it is a Christmas set, but I know that the star I'm going to use over and over again. So I'm thinking about sprinkling a few of those around the layout here, just to dress it up just a little bit and put some little accents on. So I'm going to do that in a moment. But I did want to point out my top 10 list and just run through how I've created this. Now, the numbers here are from this Stampin' Up! Virtual Album Retreat, month by month album retreat. It is still currently available to purchase. Even though the event has run, if you purchase it now, you will get a link and you'll be directed to go to the Facebook group and you'll have access to all of the videos. And each layout is a separate video. And what they're going to do is then download the videos and load them up to YouTube, and in the Facebook group you will get a link so that you will be able to watch them if you're unable to watch those videos or need to re-access them after the 30-day period of Facebook, which allows live videos to be up for. These are the stamp sets that came with Album Retreat, and I really love the alphabet and it comes with numbers. So I have die cut some white circles and some black circles here and stamped those numbers on there. But when it came to writing my list, I was thinking of the best things, my top 10 things about Disneyland. And so I just typed those up in a document and fed it through just on normal copy paper first and cut those up because I wanted to make sure they would actually fit. So I did all of the placement and everything with that printout first before I fed it through with my cardstock. And now I've got these that I have matted onto black cardstock. So the width of these are 3/8 of an inch, and then the black cardstock is 1/2 an inch. And the reason why I wanted to go through and do it just with a test run first, I wanted to make sure that these things would all fit, and also how best to set these out just to create a bit of fun, because I don't particularly want everything to be all equal and run in a line. And then with the numbers, I have used a dimensional on the back of all of those just to pop the numbers up. I didn't want to number my photos because some of my top 10 things on here for Disneyland are actually in other layouts, but I wanted to do this as a top 10 pick for me and my highlights of that day. I know I've gone totally off tangent with the colors of my papers, but I do love how this looks, especially with these 2 photos that are sitting on top of this here. So I will be back once I've adhered all these down and show you what I'm going to do to accent my flip flaps and make them easier to turn with my little bit of a nod towards Disneyland. So I've got this one all done with the flip flap in here. As you all probably know, if you've been watching me for a while, I like to adhere my flip flaps direct to the page and then cut a slit in my memory protector and feed that through so that my photos are nice and secure. And it also means that when they're sitting in an album, when they're upright like this, it's not dragging down on the memory protector. I did want to mention that with the journaling, I just tried out the new Stampin' Up! Journaling pen. It's a 0.4 point and it's really nice to write with. It's not too thick and it works really nicely. So this is how I do my memory protectors. So that's quite easy to do for me now. I've been doing it for quite some time. What I would suggest you do if you haven't done it for a while is get out an old protector. Make sure you have a few tries with that first. I'll link to a video below that shows you how I do all the marking, punch little holes, and then do 2 slits in my memory protector just to give it a little bit more wiggle room when you're opening and closing it. I have a Flip Flaps 101 video, and I also have a playlist that shows you how I've used flip flaps, and I'll put this video in here as well. So you can see here, hopefully through, I know it's a bit glary, I apologize for that, but I have 2 cuts in here because I have 2 flip flaps. And the easiest way, especially when you've got the opening piece here up close to the edge of the protector, is to take your photos out of the flip flap. I know that I did not do that once, and I actually did that on camera and it was very embarrassing, but I left that footage in there. It was such a battle to try and get the flip flap through the memory protector with the photos in it. So you'll see it's very easy. When there's nothing in the flip flap, you can bend it back super easily and bring it to the outside, and then I'm going to do the same thing for this one. This one's a bit easier because it's in the middle, so I could probably have my photo in there, but now I just take them out every single time. And then I just move this around a bit just to make sure that it's right down to the bottom. And then it's just a simple case of sliding my photos back in. Now, sometimes when I use flip flaps, I like to give a little handle for people to open and close things with. So what I thought I would do is, with my Stylish Shapes dies, I'll show you which ones I've used, the sizes. I've used the smallest and then the next smallest one. I've made some little Mickey Mouse heads and ears. Now, I haven't actually done very many Disney-themed embellishments at all, if any, actually. But I thought this might be a fun page to do this on. So I thought I would attach a little handle to each of these. And this will give a little handle to flip this up. Now, these ones are very close together. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do it for this side or not. Because if I try and put it down here, it's going to block Julie's face. Maybe I'll just put them on a little bit of an angle like that. And that will work. And what I use is red line tape, and this is see-through. I'm not sure, you might be able to use tear tape, but this is very, very strong. So I just put a little bit of that onto my flip flap here and then peel away the backing. You can see I'm burnishing that in with my fingernail, and then I'll just peel away the backing. And then I can place, if I put it around the right way, my little Mickey ears over top of that, and then that becomes a little handle to hold on to open up the flip flap. Now I'm just going to bring that in because you can see the other side, you can see the back side of that. So what I might do is create another couple. Now I have decorated these with my Spectrum Noir metallic paint marker. The nib of my 7mm one is not working terribly well, so I may redo these and just put another embellishment on top of that. But I wanted to finish this off, and I need to order myself some more of those pens. So I think for this one here, I'm going to place that further down. Now this red line tape is probably the strongest tape that I have. I'm just going to put 2 on here and then remove the backing. And you can see it's really quite invisible, but I'm going to put this one down further, so I'm positioning it like a little cluster or a little element here so that they don't go over the top of each other. And then I'm going to do exactly the same thing for this side. I am loving doing this collab with Julie, and it's just so fun. Even though we are on opposite sides of the world, you know, with Messenger and being able to FaceTime and all those sorts of things, we can get together and have a little chat about what we're doing with our layouts and what our plans are. And it is really like scrapbooking together. I'm going to put that one up a little higher so you can see his little face rather than block that off. So this is the third layout in my Disneyland book. I do have another layout that I'm going to do that involves the Star Wars Galaxy Edge rides, because I took quite a few photos of that and I wanted to put that on a separate double page spread. So that's still on my radar to do. But Julie and I will both be back in a couple of weeks for our next installment for our Disneyland adventures. I hope you're enjoying this series. It's a whole lot of fun to do this, and I'm loving getting my photos onto my layout and using non-traditional Disneyland type color themes. I think it's really fun to just stretch it a little bit and just find some papers that you love and not necessarily adhere to the tried and true. And I think this paper choice worked so much better for me with this blending of color and these 2 top photos here. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.